Made your point because I wanted to provide some statistics here. Yes, the National Assembly does incur 1% of the national budget, about 1.1%. The executive consumes the lion's share of the national budget, the office of the presidency or the institution of the presidency and the prestators. But however, Obuge, how do we need now to make this discussion around one that positively it's going to be having trickling down effect to the taxpayer and have the joint approach, because what we are witnessing at the moment are priorities that are attached to political interests with regards to the push to change the constitution politically and not address issues that affect the common mwananchi.
True. Let me start by engaging the Member of Parliament and say that his comments this morning are quite unfortunate, because the opportunity of giving him to give his submission regarding the changes in the constitution, he has actually belabored just one point of expanding the executive, which is extremely unfortunate, because the Member of Parliament should know that over 70% of recurrent budget in this country goes to, over 70% of the budget goes to recurrent expenditure. What does this tell you? It tells you that we are currently operating with a ballooned wage bill. Secondly, recently we were in crisis regarding the VAT and all these things. What led to this? Remember that Kenya at that point was in a crisis, and for us to survive the limbo that we were in, we had to abide by some specification by the Bretton Woods institutions, so that for them to guarantee us any coverage in terms of a financial crisis in us. But at the same time, we don't have governance policies that guarantee that any of these resources are well used in the country. So what does this point to? It points to a governance challenge in this country that needs to be addressed. So I support the constitution, the changes in the constitution and a plebiscite in this matter that is able to address the concerns of Mwananchi. It is unfortunate that at the moment, any time we are thinking of a referendum, we are thinking of creating position. And the more you look at it clear, in a magnified class, you realize that this is a well-orchestrated plan to create position for certain individuals. Where does this leave the common Mwananchi, the Wanjiku, the Wafulu, the Nafula, and these people who are suffering, suffering because of the expanded wage bill? It is a high time now on my submission on what we need of this. Then we need a reflective consensus building around this constitution, something that is able to address the core pains of the people. We have seen countries that have held successful plebiscite that were engineered and directed by the people themselves. We had the situation in Sweden. The Sweden plebiscite addressed the issues of poverty. The issues, the Sweden plebiscite addressed issues that concerned the workforce, and even to an extent that since the government is entitled to ensure that people get jobs, those who did not get a job had a share from the government. So that this way we are able to expand the resources, and the trickle-down effect of the people is that the purchasing power will be among the people, and then the economic growth and economic activity will be realized in the country, as opposed to centering all resources around a few individuals.
And definitely there is also a practical example in just neighboring Ethiopia, which is a parliamentary system of governance country, but that has not been able to address the issues that affect intercommunal fights or infightings in Ethiopia, which generally has an ethnic federal system of governance. But Fred Asira, let me come to you on this then. What we have seen ever since the call to change the constitution are contradictory and divisive statements by the political class in the country. However, we want an address to an ailing economy. We want an address to a public that sees the prices of basic commodities beyond their attainment. And what card-carrying politicians are doing in the country is perhaps some have resorted to have an expanded executive, which will further consume a huge chunk of the national economy in terms of salaries and the bankrolling of the activities of the executive. But do we equally need to be relooking at the entire political makeup in the country and move, or perhaps have the acceptance model with regards to those who are championing for a reduction in the number of the members of parliament, make the Senate an upper house? And to be specific here, I'm talking about the Third Way Alliance Party of Kenya, because what they have on paper seems to be resonating with most Kenyans in their tours that they have conducted across the country.
Ayub, an additional shilling burden to the Kenyan is an addition too much as it stands right now. So if you want to increase the size of the executive, even by just one post, it's too much that Kenyans can bear. So what our member of parliament is saying, there are good issues that need to be brought in, like when he says that we need to alter the constitution so that cabinet secretaries come from within the parliament, so that it is easy to bring them to account. Hold them to account.
That seems to be logical.
That's very logical.
Okay.
And that if such kind of proposals are brought and Kenyans understand, I'm sure Kenyans can support.
Okay.
But telling Kenyans that we want to increase the executive so that we can even out power to bring on board more Kenyans from different ethnic backgrounds, it's good, but it's not practical. So what is the way to handle such kind of situation?
Okay.
That is why we voted for a constitution that envisaged devolution, so that people can stop eyeing the top and start having governments that are close to them. But you see, it is the same political class that has is almost killing devolution, so that people can still clamor for the seats at the top. You see, let me give you a very practical example. Right now, our farmers from the Rift Valley are suffering. In 2022, one of them will come there and tell them, I'm going to be your savior. You guys vote for me. When I go there, all your problems will be solved. If you go to Turkana under the oil, one of them will come and tell them, give me power, I will help you. Now, that is the problem we have been having, where our leaders use our problems to bargain for power to get to the executive, instead of using the little powers that we have given them. Imagine if the Rift Valley counties could make sure that agriculture, which is the backbone of the people there, is well taken care of. The farmers are being paid, fertilizers are there. Do you think those people will even care who is the president?
Okay, no one, of course. And